It's a right-wing commentator that I found recently. His name is Vince Dow. He's a right-wing streamer on YouTube. He recently put out a video called "I'm Done with the GOP," and I'm a bit surprised by this, and I'm kind of curious as to why. So let's see what he has to say, because I have my own qualms with the GOP. I actually almost didn't register to be a part of the GOP when I registered to vote. So, I do have complaints, but I wonder if they'll match up with Vince's complaints here.
On Capitol Hill, Chad Pergram here with some breaking news that Jim Jordan will not stand for a fourth vote for Speaker. Chad, what happened?
Oh, he did not vote for Congressman Jim Jordan, instead voting for Tom Emmer. Well, I guess my first question is, do you really want Tom Emmer to be Speaker?
No, I don't. I don't like Tom Emmer. I figured this would be the worst job in America. Mike Rowe would not want to do this for his TV show. This is a terrible job.
Okay, so just to underscore that, you voted for somebody because you don't like them.
I voted for somebody because I wasn't going to vote for Jim Jordan.
But you don't.
I really mean it when I say that I despise the Republican Party. It's true. As a conservative, I guess I vote for them and, register for them because I don't really have much else of a choice. Sorry, libertarian.
I mean, you could be independent. You don't have to join a political party if you don't want to.
Sorry, Constitution Party. I meant what I...
Bro, is the Constitution Party? Yo, man, I've been missing out.
I said there is no other alternative choice. But the Republican Party is a failed institution. It's a complete joke. And at least on the House level, I would not be surprised at this point if 2024 ends up being a complete disaster. Now, when we first ousted Kevin McCarthy, I said, everyone right now is immediately declaring we're going to lose 2024. That's not true at all. We will lose 2024 if we cannot have a clean and smooth transition to someone who is a much better Speaker of the House. I was a little bit optimistic. I was a little bit hopeful.
I don't know. I mean, it'll be a bloodbath for the RINOs. It would have been a bloodbath for the RINOs. We now know that we've picked a wonderful Speaker of the House, or someone who appears to be a wonderful Speaker of the House thus far. It would be a bloodbath for RINOs. But I think also many people, such as Matt Gaetz, would be very comfortable in their seats because they have supported, only good Speakers of the House as far as I can tell. And they have, led the charge to push out Kevin McCarthy. So this idea that this is a death knell for all Republicans is a bit silly. It's only a death knell for the bad ones.
At least that, hey, Jim Jordan's up here as a candidate. Maybe it'll go well. Unfortunately, folks, let me just say it right now. Jim Jordan is not going to be Speaker of the House, at least not anytime soon. And the alternative that, is likely to take the mantle in the meantime, this Patrick McHenry guy, is awful. He is worse than McCarthy, and I don't know. We're kind of screwed. But let me first explain why Jim Jordan is it's done for him, if you're a little bit confused about this, okay? Because you may have looked at the day one vote and said, okay, 20 people voted against Jordan. Fine. 19 voted against McCarthy on the first day, so it shouldn't be a big deal, right? Well, here's the difference. And here's why I don't think there's ever going to be any negotiating with Jim Jordan and these establishment Republicans. You're never going to make these neocons happy. Is compare the two. When the MAGA Republicans were going out and opposing Kevin McCarthy, they had an explicit list of reasons. It was not something petty and personal. It was not, we don't like Kevin McCarthy, we're not going to vote for him. They had a very explicit list of demands. When, especially in January, Kevin McCarthy made certain promises that they were pleased with, all but a handful of them turned over and voted. And then they motioned to vacate him when he broke those promises. It was purely legislative, issues of policy, issues of substance, and that's always been our opposition as MAGA to Kevin McCarthy. It's not been a petty one. It's not been a personal one. It's not really been made for clicks or likes. It's been one of substance. On the flip side, when you look at the quote-unquote principled Republicans, the establishment people who claim that they care about the health of the Republican Party, and it has nothing to do with that.
Exactly.
It is merely personal. And how do you get over that, right? How does Jim Jordan go to negotiate with that? And you may think, okay, Vince, that's just your own bias. They have their own reasons too. No, listen to this. We played this on stream the other night, but this is Ken Buck. This is one of the big anti-Jim Jordan guys. Listen to him explain why he voted for a non-Jim Jordan candidate. All right? And keep in mind, again, let me reiterate. When MAGA opposed Kevin McCarthy, there were actual reasons. There were demands. There were lists of things and policies we wanted. Compare that with this.
Oh, he did not vote for Congressman Jim Jordan, instead voting for Tom Emmer. Well, I guess my first question is, do you really want Tom Emmer to be Speaker?
No, I don't. I don't like Tom Emmer. I figured this would be the worst job in America. Mike Rowe would not want to do this for his TV show. This is a terrible job.
Okay, so just to underscore that, you voted for somebody because you don't like them.
I voted for somebody because I wasn't going to vote for Jim Jordan.
So it's very much like how I vote for presidents in the general election.
But you don't.
Okay, so first of all, again, these people claim to be a serious movement. We have serious concerns about McCarthy. This is not petty. This is not personal. We're not just being a bunch of whiny crybabies here. Before he explains anything else, because the whole thing is unhinged, let me just point that out. He literally said that he voted for this guy, Tom Emmer, that he does not want to be Speaker of the House. Okay? So he voted...
I mean, you could vote for... in open primaries, I like to vote for the Democratic person who's the best person to try to influence the Democratic nomination process. It doesn't usually work. I end up picking someone who is extremely unpopular. Last time, I think I supported Tulsi Gabbard. That didn't really go anywhere except for Fox News because she works with them now or has guest hosting opportunities there or something. But... look, if you're the type of voter who is willing to vote for the best out of two bad options in the general election, that's basically what Ken Buck is doing here. So I don't think that we should take as much issue with what he's done if you're going to vote the same way in a general election.
For someone for Speaker of the House, that he is saying publicly he does not even want to be Speaker of the House. Immediately, you're admitting that your entire movement is unserious. You're basically treating your job in government as a joke, which in many ways it is. But to say that openly, just let that be pointed out. Let that be pointed out. That's how serious these people are. They're voting for people for Speaker that they're literally saying would not even make good speakers. Okay? And that's why I'm not here to sell you any false hopes. Don't worry, guys.
Look, like, I voted for Trump in 2020. I don't want Trump to be president again. He broke too many promises that he made when he was between 2016 and 2020. I do admit that he did a good job as president, but he broke too many promises. I don't want to vote for a president who's broken promises before. And also on top of that, there are other things such as lying about Stormy Daniels, mistreating Mike Pence after the whole certifying the elections fiasco. In which I think both options that Mike Pence had before him were legitimate. He just picked the one that he thought was best, and I don't hate him for it, even though I do wish that Trump was president today. He didn't do anything wrong, I don't think. But Donald Trump treated him like he was some sort of treasonous figure. And I think that was wrong, and that was an abuse of power. Cutting off Mike Pence the way that he did, while they were both still in acting capacities as president and vice president alike. So Donald Trump has done things that made me say, no, this guy should not be president of the United States. He's also had some flubs while on the campaign trail that make me question his mental state at this point to a slight degree, but still to a degree. He would still mop the floor with Joe Biden in any presidential debate, in my opinion, even in what I think is a deteriorating mental state. But if it came between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, I would still vote for Donald Trump. Oh, voting for Donald Trump? The guy you didn't like? The guy you said, lied about what he would do when he became president? Who you accused of lying about draining the swamp? The person you accused of abusing power and lying about Stormy Daniels? Yes. Why? Because he would be a better president than Joe Biden. It's that simple.
Guys, give it a couple days, couple weeks. He's going to come through. No, it's not going to happen. Now, if I'm wrong, I'd be pleasantly surprised, and you guys can laugh at me, but I don't think it's going to happen. Because, again, you cannot reason with people like this. There's no negotiating to be done. He's just being a child. It's like trying to negotiate with a 4-year-old. Oh, no. And at some point, you have to just take the toy from them, which we should do in the primaries, I guess. We'll talk about that in a second. But until then, there's no hope. What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
No. What we're going to do is remember this. Remember this. And in the primaries, primary the heck out of all the people who supported Kevin McCarthy, and primary the heck out of all the people who opposed Jim Jordan. Remember these votes. These are the types of things that we need to remember in primaries. Not what they say they're going to do about abortion or what they say they're going to do about gun rights or free speech rights. No. Follow the votes. And if the people, and this comes down to both sides of the issue, because I know there are a lot of people who supported Kevin McCarthy. Hey, if you're in Matt Gaetz' district, vote against him in the primary. Try to primary these guys. Vote in every single local political election that you have the opportunity to vote in.
It is that simple, okay? And if you're wondering what happens next here, okay, what are we going to do without a Speaker of the House? Well, I would say at this point, just leave the seat empty. Like that's what I would propose, is just leave it empty. The government doesn't need to pass anything anyway. What is it going to be? Oh, we need to give more funding to Ukraine and then open up a new package for Israel and do all this stuff. And then we need to do another infrastructure. It's all a bunch of crap. Okay. So
we don't need another infrastructure bill. I do think that government spending bills would need to go through the House. So that would be an issue if you're going to fund the government, if you think the government should be funded, causes a few hiccups there, you might say.
I wouldn't care if the government shuts down from here to 2024. It probably
okay then. All right.
Probably be a good thing, but they're not going to do that. The current plan is to make the interim speaker the pro tempore speaker, right?
I'm really glad that this didn't go through, because what would have happened was he would have just become the de facto Speaker of the House in an undemocratic fashion, and the RINOs would not have supported anyone else, and the Freedom Caucus would be left without any options as to ways of recourse to get a better Speaker of the House.
Give him emergency powers to basically be the Speaker of the House until Jim Jordan can maybe get the votes he needs. And the timeline I've heard is to make this guy Speaker until January 3rd. Okay? Make all the way till January. This is the guy they want to be Speaker. This Patrick McHenry guy. And just to summarize, let me read Joey's tweet here. It says, just to describe to you who is going to be this interim speaker here. Again, he is a Republican, but he's not a very good one. Has a 46% Liberty score, which is closer to most Democrats than most Republicans. One of the most liberal Republicans in Congress. This is the guy who's going to be the interim Speaker of the House, very likely, because the neocons do not want to just suck it up and unite the party, which they claim they care so much about. McHenry is a huge Ukraine guy and will rubber stamp money going to them with no problem. He voted in favor of the Ukraine Democracy Defense Lend-Lease Act of 2022. So, there you have it. There you have it. Politics as usual, more of the same.
Yep. Rah, rah, rah. War.
Yada, yada, yada. You get the idea. He voted in favor of the 2022 Ukraine supplemental appropriation. We go on and on. He voted against Amendment 21 to H.R. 2670, the National Defense Authorization Act, which would have strucken down $300 million of assistance for Ukraine. So you basically get the idea, okay? You get the idea. This guy's going to be a terrible speaker. This is what we're going to be stuck with. And I don't know what to say at this point. I don't know what to say. Okay?
I do think that the fact that they didn't go through with this plan, I think is good. No, I think if his predicate is, they're just going to get McHenry to be Speaker of the House, they're awful. I might as well not be a Republican. If that's going to be his argument, well, I think that he might need to tampen those calls down a little bit, considering the fact that this didn't end up happening. We did end up getting, what's his name? Mike Johnson or something, who has a 75% Liberty score.
Now, the antidote to all of this is just to say, we're going to primary them all out. Don't worry. the 20 Republicans, or 22, or probably 30 by now. I don't know how the third vote actually went. I'm recording this beforehand. We're going to go and primary them all out in 2024. And to that, I say I appreciate the optimism. I do, and I hope we do that. I will put in my best efforts to do that. I will endorse anyone who comes along as an authentic conservative and tries to primary these people. But the sad reality is that when you look at what happened in a lot of 2022, I have my doubts. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. Because... you see, it's really easy to primary out a big person like Liz Cheney, who infamously goes against Donald Trump. And, you know, that was one of the big successes of the 2022 primaries, was getting Liz Cheney out of office. But when you look at a lot of these smaller name neocons, you know, the people whose names aren't on Fox News all the time, the people who you don't hear us complain about all the time, but you look at their record, hey, they're opposing Jim Jordan. Hey, they're doing all this funding to Ukraine and stuff.
Yep.
Unfortunately, it's a sad reality. These people usually survive their primaries. And
you know why these people survive the primaries, if we're going to be honest? It's people with national platforms like you and like Glenn Beck and like, you know, Sean Hannity, even Tucker Carlson to a degree, not focusing on these people, not bringing up their names, not mentioning that, hey, this person is not truly a conservative in the purest sense of the word. I think that many people just assume that just because they have the right color jersey on, that they're going to be, you know, good representatives for them. And I actually talked about this in my video, which is called "You're Voting Wrong." It was a more impassioned version of this message. But I think that most people consume media from national outlets. I don't think there are many local political podcasts or shows where people are explaining the good and the bad and the ugly of all the things that the people in the local legislature is doing. So what does that mean? That means the people with national platforms need to be talking more about what people in individual states have done and are doing, especially when it comes to primary season. So when polls and ballot boxes open up, we should be talking about the policies of all the people who are running for president, their track record, not what they're saying in front of podiums, not their campaign messaging, what they've actually done if we're talking about incumbents. That is the reasonable way to move forward, and that's how you truly get these people primaried. Not by whining and complaining, you know, 12 months before those primaries actually take place, because at that point, like, man, what? You think people are going to rewind all the footage to see who voted for Kevin McCarthy and who didn't, and then based on that determine who you're going to vote for in the primaries? No one is going to do all of that legwork. You need to bring this up during the midterm season.
They're going to have a lot of money on their side. They're going to have the GOP donor base on the side. They're going to have Fox News on their side, which sadly, when it comes to a lot of Republican voters, as bad as they've become, as downhill as they've slid, you know, and I don't think the viewers of this channel are watching Fox News every day, but a lot of the Republican electorate is. That's just what's going to happen. Fox News will run cover for these people. They already have. The GOP donor base, which is still heavily around McCarthy, is going to fund them. And you're probably going to see a lot of the true grassroots America First conservatives get, you know, blacklisted and blackballed from it.
I don't know.
I'm not saying that to demoralize you. I'm not saying that to not try our best. I'm being sort of pessimistic right now, and it's probably a bad thing. I shouldn't be encouraging it, but because I always say too, I say don't be a pessimist, don't be a doomer. But that's just the reality. I don't know.
Now I will say this, that I think that this shows more than ever that we need at least another party, another major political party. I think the Freedom Caucus really split from the GOP and make their own party, the Freedom Party, and become their own national cultural force. Now, they already have enough to dictate who becomes the Speaker of the House. Imagine if we have a coalition of a political party that has actually principled conservatives in it versus the Republican Party, which is like, 75% RINOs at this point? Like, it's pretty bad, if we're going to be honest. So I think this just exposes the need for more political parties. Doesn't mean that a political party should always have uniformity, by the way. But it seems like you've got a whole party of conservatives who are really just establishment moderates who just want things to keep on going, business as usual, right? More spending bills, more national debt, more this and more that, and hardly any of those things are conservative, really.
No, I'm ashamed to be a Republican. If it didn't matter for the primaries, I'd register as an independent because this party sucks. This party sucks. And it sucks because of the neocons. It sucks because of the establishment. Okay, let me be clear about that. But the sad reality is that we have a GOP that is polarly divided. Mm-hmm. You have one side that are authentic conservatives. They want to put America first. They want to secure the interest of the American people and the American homeland above all else.
Right, right.
And then you have another side who are complete globalists and don't believe any of the things they claim to be conservative about. Yeah. And that's just how it is. So how do you reconcile a party like that? I don't know. So maybe that's why we just can't get a Speaker of the House. I don't know. What I do know is that it's a joke. Okay? It's all a joke. And that's about all I have to say. So right. With that said.
But it's not anything new. This isn't anything new. Nothing has changed. It's just that Matt Gaetz has forced people to expose themselves. Now, maybe you haven't seen these people's, undergarments before, right? But, this is not the only moment in time in which these people have exposed themselves. It is what it is. Republican Party has always been filled with RINOs. Don't be shocked.
Folks, be sure to leave a like on the video before you go. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. As always, be sure to check out our sponsors at Noble Gold. Check them out at vincedowgold.com. If you fill out the form on there, it's a great way to support the channel. So,
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I probably should be buying gold, but I'm not going to be buying gold right now. But anyways, yeah. Dude is certainly being a little bit pessimistic. Don't be afraid to be a conservative. This is the approach I took, right? When I was like, I look at the Republicans and I'm like, they're not even conservative. This is literally what I said. And I stopped for a second and I was like, well, you want the Republican Party to be more conservative, right? You want them to be actually conservative, right? And I was like, yeah, I do. Well, what has to happen then? Well, it takes more people like me, more actual conservatives, to join that political party and to change the political party by voting for people who are actually conservative in order to move the needle, in order to get us closer to the conservative ideals in which many of these RINOs claim to have. You don't change you don't change the Republican Party by leaving it. You change the Republican Party from the inside out. And that's why I would say it's the people who are skeptical of the GOP that the GOP needs most. Because otherwise, this is going to become infested with RINOs. If there's no one to challenge the establishment, no one to challenge the moderates, no one to challenge like the liberals in sheep's clothing here. So I would say, Vince Dow, this pessimism you have for the Republican Party should spurn you to stay in the GOP rather than leave it, because the party needs to be transformed, and it's going to take people like you in order to get it back on track to where it needs to be.